Hello there. I promised you a thorough book review on 5 years after, and this is that review. So, if you haven't read the book, I'm telling you right now you want to click the X because I'm going to spoil every bit of it in this video. So, if you haven't read the book, don't go any further if you don't want things spoiled. If you have read the book or for whatever reason want to hear what I have to say before reading the book or what have you, well, welcome. And I'll tell you what, this was quite a different experience as far as in comparison to the previous books. So for one, I don't remember if the previous books, if it had like different acts or whatever in chapters like this does. It has like different parts in different chapter. You know, every time you start a new part, the chapters start over. I don't remember that from his previous books, and it may just be that I don't remember it. Maybe he did it and it's just not, registering, but I thought that was a little bit different. So getting on into the meat of the book, the first thing that I had picked up on that had caused a little bit of confusion was talking about Genevieve and how she was a year old. And I didn't think that there had been enough time go from the last book until now there should have been more time is what I'm getting at. Because it seems like it's been a couple of years or so, since the last book. It would seem that Genevieve should be a little bit older, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that. I was kind of trying to figure and do the math, and I'm not positive. But I'm not the only one. There was another reviewer that I read that had caught the same thing and questioned the same thing. So, but more so, this book was different because I felt like this book really dove much more into the fantasy end the preparedness genre, which I'm gonna be really honest, was a disappointment. It's a good book. I don't want anybody to think that I don't recommend this book. I absolutely recommend this book. Right up front, I absolutely recommend this book. But if you're gonna expect it to be kind of a carbon copy of the previous books, just a continuation carbon copy, I think you might be a little disappointed. And the reason why I say that is because, again, there's much more of a fantasy aspect to it. Now, next thing, you get into this book and you're finding out that that John was asked to be vice president of the new government that was being formed. And you start getting into, okay, now you've got buddies that are able to bring you a bunch of doses of antibiotics so that you can deal with your pneumonic bubonic plague. Trying to get those words out correctly. So there was just, it just seemed like it really dove into the fantasy end of things, which again was a disappointment. Aside from that, the writing itself, masterful, as always from William Forstchen. Masterful. I am pretty good at figuring out plots and figuring out storylines and stuff like that far before I get to those moments. And it actually is something that's frustrating because I don't, I want to be surprised too, And I will say this. William does such an incredible job at his little twists and turns that he's very, very hard to predict. And in fact, there was a moment of time when I was reading this book and I thought, oh no. And it was before I found out about the secret government, if you will. And I thought, oh no, don't do it. They're going to bring in aliens. They're going to bring in the aliens. And for a little bit, I was actually thinking that's where this was going to go. Fortunately, it went Still fantasy, but it still it went a more realistic direction. So that was definitely good. Um, like I say, it was written very, very well. The twists, the turns, and then the final twist again, masterful. Is the way to word that. Uh, Incredible. I mean, the ending was incredible. I don't know if this is going to be the last book or not. Somebody that wrote one of the reviews that I read was kind of seemed to be indicating that this was it. This would be the end of it. I don't know. There's so much more room for a continued story, because essentially, at the end of this book, they're pretty much set right back to where they were at the beginning of this book, with the exception of they no longer have some type of overlording hidden government below Camp David. So, I don't know if he intends to take the book into any future volumes, or if he has stated that this would be it. I don't know. Again, I do highly recommend you read the book. It's a good book. I was very pleasantly surprised and pleased to see that wood gasification made it into the book. You do not see that. It's just not something, and that's the thing. It's so frustrating trying to wake up this so-called preparedness community. It's mind-blowing to me that they all want to so actively reject being able to survive. Because if you can't get those machines going, take these books for instance, they're great books. And he does a really good job as far as his research, as far as his situational things in the book. It's very, very realistic. He does a really good job, very well researched. No two ways about that. And I just think it's a shame that we can't make this information about wood gasification much more widespread. And it truly is a shame. It truly is a shame. But it takes engaged people. And unfortunately, it takes engaged people that have much bigger voices than mine. So, but I am glad to see that it made it into the book. Anything else in particular? I'm trying to think about the book that really stood out. No, not really. I mean, it's just a really well done book. The reviews that I've read have seemed to be pretty mixed. There are a lot of people upset about the differences in this book versus the previous books. A lot of discontent over that, it would seem. Again, it's, it is what it is. Oh, I did have one other thing, very important thing to add to it. The way that William had interwoven all that we've gone through the past few years and actually put it as part of the history of the whole story, that was pretty good. He did a really good job. And by that, I mean COVID. Being able to put COVID in the book and pull that off, he's got mad props from me on that. And it wasn't the only thing. There were other things, too, that he included into the book and kind of made it part of the history back from before the EMP went off. So that was cool how he did that, and it was cool how he interwove this story in with that stuff. Like, for instance, there was issues regarding, people listening and stuff like that because of this plague that was going around. And part of that was because of all the distrust and all of that from the COVID epidemic, right? So that was in there, and I thought that was really, really cool. So the way that he took more current events and was able to put them into the history of the story, I thought was really, really well done. But really, that's about it. I mean, I've got just over 10 minutes of a review for you here. It's a good book. It's not going to be carbon copy in line with his previous books. It is written a little bit differently. It does dive a little deeper into the fantasy realm. But it's a good book. And it's so weird because you're getting towards the end of the book and there's not that much book left, and you keep thinking, how are they going to wrap this up? How are they going to wrap this up? Well, they wrapped it up, and yeah, it was good ending. Good ending. So anyway, we'll see if there's future books. I sure hope there is. This is it's been an interesting journey with his books. There is so much to learn in them. I highly recommend. Over any other book series out there, this is probably the number one go-to to read. So after that, you can start looking into people like Franklin Horton and the Borrowed World series, Locker 9 series. You can look into Angry American with the Going Home series. A lot of information out there, a lot of books. The reason why I like Williams over all the others is because he had kept the fantasy stuff pretty much out of it. The best he could, it would seem. But it's edging in. So anyway, you haven't read the book and just wanted to hear about it before you do, or to see if you want to, read the book. It's a really good book, and it's really well written. I can't even speak. He just does a really good job of taking you through it. So anyway, I hope you enjoy it. I hope the review helped you, however it may help you or didn't. I don't know. I don't even know why people do these, but I know that there's a lot of people that want to hear or see book reviews before they dive into a book. So don't think twice about it. If you've not read the other 3 in the series, I highly recommend you read those 3 first. Although you don't absolutely have to. If you're just now learning about the genre, you could jump into this one. In the very beginning of this book, he does take you through a substantial part of the history, so you could get an idea of where you're at and what's going on. So, however, reading those 3 prior books, I suggest so much more because of all the information that they contain. A lot of good stuff you can learn. A lot of good stuff. So anyway, I hope you all have a good day. Shalom.